give it one more minute and I'll dive in just a second here. Okay, let's be respectful of people's time here and we'll begin. Donnie, can I ask you to monitor the waiting room as people continue to enter? Awesome, thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to today's webinar, What Wikipedia Gets Wrong About Fundraising. My name is Raimy Rubin. I am the Marketing Director for CauseMatch. Before I dive in, I wanted to go over a couple of housekeeping notes, and then we can get right to it. The agenda today is pretty straightforward. I'm going to present for the next 25 minutes or so, and that should leave about 20 minutes or so for Q&A afterward. So that is the agenda for today. This webinar is being recorded. We will hopefully send a recording of this out to you tomorrow. So you are welcome to review it if you missed any points or would like to share it with colleagues. It will be available for you to view. Please use the chat. Certainly during the Q&A portion, but even beforehand, if you have a burning question, you can use the chat. My colleague, Donnie Freistadt, is going to monitor the chat throughout the presentation, and during the Q&A, he will moderate it for us. So that will be our method of communication for the next 45 minutes or so. Beyond that, though, our method of communication should be, please email me, raimy@causematch.com. I am anxious, eager to hear from you, both about the content of this specific webinar and just about in general, what your fundraising questions are, what content you would like to see in the future. I very much want this to be a two-way street of communication. So please email me. Please know my inbox is always open, so to speak, always happy to chat with you and talk about fundraising best practices.
Raimy, can I say one thing quickly?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. First of all, it's so great to see everyone here. I recognize a lot of names. I would love to see people's videos. I know some people are not driving or different things, but if you could turn your video on, it's always nice to see people in real Zoom. So if you're able to, would love to see you. No pressure.
Thank you, Lavana. Thank you. I want to talk for a moment about CauseMatch. CauseMatch is the most powerful fundraising platform on the market, helping organizations all over the world raise lots and lots of money. And the way that we accomplish that is through these three pillars that you see on the screen here: the best technology, the best strategy, and the best customer support that is out there. The reason why we're conducting this webinar tonight is really for number two. Oops. Is really number two. It is part of our company mission, our organizational mission, to help you fundraise smarter and better. It is my hope that you will walk away from this presentation with the tools to craft a stronger, more effective fundraising message. Whether you're speaking to a major donor or writing an appeal to the masses, that these messages, that these best practices that we'll go over today will help you craft a stronger fundraising message. So with all of that said, if you have questions about our platform, about the technology, the strategy, or the support, please, again, email me after this presentation. I'm happy to talk more about the services that we offer or direct you to the person who can answer your questions if I do not know it. I will put my email address up again at the end of this presentation, but again, it is raimy@causematch.com. Please email me any questions you have about the platform, about our company, and about the services that we offer. Okay. Before we really get to it, I can see the participant list here, but it's always nice for me to know the names of the organizations that are represented here today and the impact area that you serve. So if you wouldn't mind opening up your chat and just putting that in for me, it'll help me tailor my examples as I go through this presentation tonight. I see a lot of familiar names and faces, some I do not know, but it would be helpful for me if you can open up that chat and put in the name of your organization for me. Thank you. Awesome. Okay. As these come in, and I appreciate you filling these out, I want to do a little bit of a story time here. I want to take you back to about a month ago, way back when in 2023. I was perusing one of my favorite websites, which is Wikipedia. On this particular day of this particular story, I was looking at the Ultimate Frisbee Association Wikipedia page. What some of my colleagues may not know about me is I love Ultimate Frisbee. I play Ultimate Frisbee. I follow Ultimate Frisbee. I love the sport. And on this day, I was reading about it and learning about some of the leagues, professional, amateur, that are in the world. I went down a rabbit hole, as people tend to go down when they're looking at Wikipedia. And just a couple minutes into my search, I was hit with a pop-up. Now, you do not have to strain your eyes to read this. I will make it larger. I will make it bigger in just a second. This is all for just visual storytelling. But I was hit with this pop-up, and I was very excited by this pop-up. Why? Because what my colleagues do know about me is that I love reading fundraising messaging. I love reading other organizations' fundraising messaging and understanding what they did and why they did it, and just building on our collective body of knowledge as it pertains to fundraising. So I was very excited that one of my favorite resources in the world, Wikipedia, that is one of the 10 most popular websites in the world, that encompasses basically all of human knowledge, is putting together this fundraising messaging for me to read. I was very disappointed quite quickly as I was reading it, however, because as we're going to go through, there's a lot of best practices that they simply violate. They do not use best practices. And I started to put together my notes, which turned into this webinar. I wanted to sort of tear it apart and articulate why I didn't like the message that they were putting out there. Now, it happens to be that as we were putting together the marketing for this webinar, and I was sending emails out advertising for this webinar, someone emailed me and told me that there's a whole history of this message. This message did not always look like it, and there's actually a well-documented history about Wikipedia's fundraising appeal. This is a subscriber to our database. They showed me a bunch of articles about this, and I went down a rabbit hole of my own here, learning that Wikipedia's message did not always look like this. It used to be a much more aggressive message for fundraising. It actually used to conform to a lot more best practices than it currently does. But what happened several years ago was that the Wikipedia community, the volunteer editors that are there to edit Wikipedia entries, rebelled. They did not like the aggressive Wikipedia message that was being put out there, the aggressive fundraising message that was being put out there. And they asked Wikipedia to tone it down, which Wikipedia did. And they watered down the message to what we're going to go through today. I go on this tangent, because I find the history of it all very fascinating. But I also think there's a lesson to be learned just from this very story of the community sort of voicing their opinion and then Wikipedia adjusting the message as such. Because each of your organizations is going to have different voices around the table that have different sensitivities to your fundraising message. And I've seen this from my own seat at CauseMatch, right, where I'm in meetings with a lot of your organizations, and in that meeting might be the director of development, whose primary goal is to raise as much money as possible. And you might have around the table a director of marketing, whose primary goal is to keep that organization's reputation and brands, to preserve that brand and make sure there's no vulnerability involved there. And we also might have the director of finance who's sitting around the table, and that person is going to want to be precise about the budgeting for these campaigns, and what is not going to want to misrepresent where money is going to be used from a specific fundraising campaign. All of these are examples, but they're real examples of different people that are going to have voices within your fundraising message and different sensitivities. 90% of the time, those goals are going to overlap. And then a portion of the time, they're going to butt heads, and there's going to be some friction between what the message should be. My message to you from this story is don't do what Wikipedia did and move to one extreme without accounting for fundraising best practices. Definitely make sure the voices around the table are heard, but we want to use fundraising best practices to help guide the message. And in that way, I believe with all of my heart that you can account for all of that feedback and then craft a real, authentic, effective fundraising pitch that makes everyone happy, or at very least, makes everyone equally as unhappy, which I think is also can be a goal in this regard. But moving to an extreme like Wikipedia did, like we're going to discuss now, definitely leaves money on the table. And that's what I want to steer away from. So We can dive into the message. I want to put it up big online. I'm going to read it out loud if that's okay. Move all of these windows so I can see it. Thank you for considering a donation to the Wikimedia Foundation, the nonprofit that hosts Wikipedia and other crucial free knowledge projects. We invite you to reflect on the number of times you visited Wikipedia in the past year. If the knowledge you gained here was valuable, please join the 2% of readers who donate to the nonprofit that supports Wikipedia. It is hard to know what to trust online these days. Wikipedia is different, not perfect, but also not here to make a profit or to push a particular perspective. It is written by everyone together because they want to help create a free repository of high quality information. If Wikipedia has given you useful knowledge this year, please give back. There are no small contributions. Every edit counts. Every donation counts. Thank you. So when I was going through this, I found at least 6 things wrong with their approach that I want to go through in the next chunk of time. So I want to put up their message again. I want to highlight the first one. Please join the 2% of readers who donate to the nonprofit that supports Wikipedia. One of the other promotional things we did for this webinar was we put up this message on Wikipedia and we asked people what they thought was wrong with the message. And this was really the first thing that everyone responded to. Please join the 2% of readers who donate to the nonprofit that supports Wikipedia. Because I think most people are familiar with the concept of social proof, but in this case, it's social proof backwards. Wikipedia tried to do something, but instead they did something else. And I think what they should have gone for was this aspect of social proof, create some momentum because people like to be on a winning team. Instead, they went for this exclusivity factor to be part of the few, which I think is an avenue that could work, but it's much riskier, and I don't think they did it in a very effective way at all. They would have been much safer, much better off by talking about the number of people that have already joined this cause, and then also focus on the importance of each individual's specific gift. When we coach fundraising campaigns, when we coach CauseMatch campaigns, one of the main tenets is that we encourage organizations to do a soft launch, which means that they're going to already get 20, 25, 30, even 40% of a campaign goal before the campaign goes live. And that way, when the campaign does go live, people are jumping onto the page and already seeing momentum from the get-go. They're not coming onto a page that has 0% or 2% of the thermometer already full. They're seeing 30, 40%, almost 50% of the goal already there. And in that way, you create momentum. So what I think Wikipedia could have written is something like this. As of last week, 7 million people have donated to this important cause, but there's still so much work to be done. And in that way, you're creating that momentum. You're validating the cause by saying so many people have vetted this and said that this is an important cause for us to donate, but you're also saying there's still so much work to be done and balancing the momentum with the need for each donor's specific gift. That was the first thing that I noticed they did wrong. They used social proof, but backwards. I'm going to put the message up again and highlight a different section. It is hard to know what to trust online these days. Wikipedia is different, not perfect, but also not here to make a profit or to push a particular perspective. I actually thought this was the best of the bad sections. Why? Because there is a little bit of emotion involved. It is emotional. It's real. They made this real by using the right language here. My problem with it is they didn't go nearly far enough. Now, I know that I am a Wikipedia enthusiast. I love this company, this organization. But what I think they're doing is totally aspirational and visionary. Again, they have taken pretty much all human knowledge and made it free and accessible to anyone with an internet connection. And I think they could have played up on that emotion. What they could have done is really tried to be inspirational and get people to give with their hearts more than with their heads. So what would this look like? If I were given the keys to the kingdom and they said, Raimy, you craft the next Wikipedia fundraising message, I think it could have included something like this. When you donate, you are giving the free world the most precious gift, knowledge. People will go out and do more and do better. It will create and build and shatter preconceived notions of what is possible. Your gift is a declaration that we are going to explore further, discover more, and reach beyond the stars. It is a demonstration that you believe that the most important thing we can do with our limited time on Earth is to leave this place a little better off than when we got here. Giving to Wikipedia is an investment in humankind. The main takeaway that I want you to come away with from this is don't minimize your mission when you go on your fundraising appeal. If anything, you want to play that up. You want to tell donors that you change lives through your organizational missions. Lives are changed, are transformed. What you are doing is visionary and aspirational. Don't minimize that. If anything, you want to play that up and appeal to people's hearts and emotions. They're going to give a lot more if you appeal to people's emotions as opposed to the analytic side and convince them to give. You want to inspire them to give with emotional language. That's going to be the way to bring them on board. That was number 2. Put up their message again and highlight here. It is written by everyone together because they want to help create a free repository of high quality information. What I think Wikipedia was trying to do here was talk about how big the Wikipedia community is. They wanted to spread the credit around to all of the people who are involved in creating this Wikipedia community. Again, they're volunteers. Anyone in the world can edit or create a Wikipedia entry. So it takes this huge global community to create this free repository of high quality information. My issue with this tactic is that we want to give donors all of the credit for the impact that your organizations have. They identified the wrong hero here. You don't want to diffuse credit across the board. The only audience that's important is the one that you're speaking to. And when you're fundraising, you're speaking to donors. You want to engage in heroic storytelling. You want to connect donors as directly as possible to the impact that they enable. And again, I know that this is true for a lot of the organizations that are here today. You have amazing staffs that help you create the organization that you have that thrives every single day. You have volunteers, you have your boards. There's so many different groups and bodies that deserve credit for the outcomes that take place every day in your organizations. But when you are fundraising, you want to concentrate on your donors and you want to give them all of the credit for those amazing outcomes. Tie them as directly as possible from their donation to the impact. So just as an example, what Wikipedia could have done is your gift directly translates into a free repository of high quality information. You can connect them directly. Your donation does this. In a way, your organization, our organizations are the middleman. The money passes through us, but goes to the direct service recipients, or goes to the impact that is happening here. I have a little bit of a pet peeve when I look at other organizations writing and I see phrases like, help us do this, join us to do this, support us so that we can do this. And what that does is it makes us the hero. Help us so that we can do the amazing thing that we want to do. When what we can do is give donors all of that credit and just say, when you donate, you do that thing that we're trying to do. You do that thing. So I don't know what it would be, giving coats to the homeless people in the winters. Could say, help us give coats to the homeless in the winter. That would be a really nice thing to do. But if you really want to tie your donors as directly as possible to the cause, you would say, when you donate, you make sure that no one in our city, no homeless person in our city goes without a coat, and you tie them as directly as you can to the service recipients, to the impacts that they're having. That was number 3. Number 4, we invite you to reflect on the number of times you visited Wikipedia in the past year. And then later on, they wrote, if Wikipedia has given you useful knowledge this year, please give back. I think of the 6 principles we're going to discuss tonight, I spent the most amount of time thinking about this one, because Wikipedia, in my mind, came so close to getting this one right. They really did. They got so incredibly close to getting this one right, but they just didn't hit the nail on the head. What they were trying to do was invoke the concept of reciprocity, which is very simple. If you do something nice for me, I will do something nice for you. I want to do something nice for you. We see this all the time in business. I've seen nonprofits execute this in an amazing way. And I think even the best examples of this are in the quote unquote social contracts that we have every day. So for instance, if you invite me over to dinner, one thing I'm going to want to do is bring over a bottle of wine. Not because I feel an obligation to, or there's some financial transaction happening, but you did something nice for me by cooking me dinner. I want to do something nice for you by adding to the meal with a bottle of wine. What I think Wikipedia did wrong is that they made it transactional and not transformational. They made it feel like I need to give them something, give them back. I need to repay what they gave me, my gift of Wikipedia. So I might have intended to buy you a $42 bottle of wine anyway because you invited me over for dinner. But if you say, Raimy, the ingredients cost me $42 for the meal that I'm going to cook you, would you please bring me over a $42 bottle of wine? That good feeling totally goes away. It leaves a bad taste in my mouth, no pun intended to the dinner analogy. It doesn't form a relationship between me and the host. It makes this dinner a very transactional dinner. And that's what I see that Wikipedia did here. What I think they could have done instead was very simply, you can recall the gift that you gave. As user of Wikipedia, you understand how important it is to access free information, ... You can let people know that they have this amazing gift, but you want to flip it so it's future focused, and then tell donors what they can do when they donate, and just strengthen the relationship that you have with donors. That's the important takeaway from this, that you want to use reciprocity, but you want to use it to build stronger relationships, not as a way of repaying a gift that someone gave you. Then it becomes transactional and not transformational. On to number 5. For number 5, I'm going to highlight nothing, because one thing that Wikipedia did not do in that message was tell you where your gift was going to go. They didn't tell you a need, they didn't demonstrate urgency, they didn't tell you at all how your money was going to be used. And one of the core fundamentals of fundraising is that donors need a problem to solve. You need to tell them how their money is going to be used and why it's needed in the first place. That concept is pretty simple. Present the urgency of the problem and then the necessity of a donor's gift. And you can do this in specific terms. If you're raising money for something specific, you're putting smart boards in a classroom, then that's great. Tell people that their money is going to fund smart boards in a classroom. If it's going to go to general operating support, then talk about the net impact of a donor's gift, that you are going to educate the next generation of leaders in the community. It doesn't have to be specific. You can talk about the general necessity of a donor's gift or the specific necessity of a donor's gift. So once again, I wanted to craft that for Wikipedia. They could have written something like this. Though the service is free, it takes a lot of resources to keep Wikipedia up and running. It takes server maintenance and technical infrastructure, hosting fees, hardware and software development. The end product looks simple, but there is a lot going on behind the scenes. That's why your gift is so important. Demonstrate the urgency, demonstrate the necessity, tell people of the impact of their gift. And Wikipedia totally misses the mark there. I'm going to put up their message again in just a second to get to number 6, but you'll see it's really remarkable how they were able to totally bypass that. They at no point tell you where your gift is going to go. The last principle that I want to talk about are based on the last 2 words of their message, the thank you. Because in those two words were really the only human, personal element of the entire message. Everything else felt really rather organizational. I don't know what just rigid in a lot of ways. And fundraising needs to be personal. Fundraising needs to be personal. Why? Because people give to people, not to organizations. A human face or a name goes a long way in the fundraising process, and they just had this block that is Wikipedia or the Wikimedia Foundation asking you for money. There was no human element to it at all. I would have suggested that they use a fundraising committee or a chairperson, highlight a volunteer editor, even the founder himself, any human element to make this personal, We at CauseMatch we do a lot of synagogue campaigns. And one thing that I've noticed is that there are many synagogue rabbis who really prefer not to be the face of the synagogue's fundraising campaign. Right or wrong, they choose to be the spiritual leader and they don't want to be the face of the fundraising campaign. And we can talk about the pros and cons of that approach, but that's not the point. The point is that synagogues don't need to have the rabbi be the face of their fundraising campaign. If the rabbi chooses not to be, that is their prerogative. The point is that someone needs to be the face of the fundraising campaign. It can't be no one, because if it's just the organization, then there's not that human element. There are no relationships being formed. It becomes that very static, very rigid relationship, and we want it to be much more dynamic, much more personal. So those are the 6 best practices that I think they violated in ways that I think you can take those best practices and move them forward in your fundraising. As we wrap up, I wanted to go through what Wikipedia got wrong as sort of a summary of it all. And then I want to put the message all back together if they were to use these best practices in the right way, and we'll see what that message might have looked like. But to review, what Wikipedia got wrong, they used social proof, but backwards, right? They said only 2% of readers give to this campaign. Not supposed to make me want to give, when in fact, it makes me feel like I don't want to be in the minority. They weren't nearly emotional enough. They could have been aspirational, visionary, all of human knowledge at my fingertips. But no, they didn't play up on that. They minimized the scope of their mission. They didn't give donors all of the credit for the end product. They diffused that credit on all of the Wikipedia community. They were transactional, not transformational. They used reciprocity, but they made me feel like I owed them something in return for the gift that is Wikipedia. They didn't give donors a problem to solve. They didn't tell me how my money was going to be used or why it's needed in the first place. And there was no human element. It was very, very, very rigid. From me to the Wikimedia Foundation, not me to another person. So in thinking about how all of this could come together, I put proverbial pen to paper, and here's what I came. Thank you for considering a donation to the Wikimedia Foundation. The Wikipedia is free. It takes a lot of resources to keep the site running. It requires server maintenance, a strong technical infrastructure, and software development. The end product may look simple, but a lot goes on behind the scenes. That's why your gift is so important. When you donate, you join the 7 million people who have already given a generous donation this year. You give another user the most precious gift you can offer, the gift of knowledge. Because of you, more Wikipedia readers will go out and do more and do better. They will create and build and shatter preconceived notions of what is possible. Your gift is a declaration that we are going to explore further, discover more, and reach beyond the stars. It is your demonstration that the most important thing we can do with our limited time on Earth is to leave this place a little better off than when we got here. You've landed on this page, which means you understand the miracle that enables you to come through millions of Wikipedia entries in mere seconds to acquire knowledge. Indeed, it is no miracle at all. It relies on donors like you. Lead the charge and ensure that free information is accessible to people all over the globe. Your gift is an investment in the very best of humankind. Please donate today. From your CEO and Chief, Raimy Rubin of Wikipedia. To wrap it all up and take what you can do right, let's go over these 6 principles in the positive, right? You can tell donors how many people support your cause and that their gift is still needed. Tell people how many people already support your cause. Be emotional, inspire people to give with their hearts more than with their heads. Give donors all of the credit, tie them as directly as you can to the service recipients, to the impact, to the outcomes that are taking place within your walls. Use reciprocity wisely, make it transformational, not transactional. Use it, give gifts, absolutely give gifts to your donors, but use it to build relationships. Give donors a problem to solve, tell them why their gift is needed and why it's needed now, and be human, because human is the power behind peer-to-peer fundraising. People give to people. So with that, you can open it up for questions. You can type in your questions in the chat. And again, I'm going to ask Donnie to moderate that and feed me questions as they come in. We can.
Yeah, I got a couple here.
Okay, fantastic.
So you said that people give to people, not to organizations, but is that entirely true? Donors are often inspired by the mission and amazing work of the organization. Sure, they need to be asked, but aren't they giving to the organization?
They are giving to the organization. That is true. They will give more if they give through a person, when there is that human element to it. Because that's what we're all after. We're after relationships. We're after feeling good, right? And let's put it that way. We give to feel good about ourselves, about putting good into the world. And the more that we feel good, the more we're going to give. People are going to make you feel good about your gift. People are going to make you do that. The organization is not going to do that. And that's why a really authentic or genuine thank you from someone in the organization means so much. Someone noticed that I gave a gift to an organization. So yes, you are going to give to the organization, but there are people behind it who are going to strengthen and deepen those connections.
Here's another. You said that you should give donors a problem to solve. Should that problem be about the broader impact that needs to be made or about the technical needs that need to be addressed?
Excellent question. Excellent question. I think you can weave in and out of those. Because I think what people really need to see is the net outcome of whatever work you're going to do, which would be the general problem that you're out to solve. That's really where I think people feel their heartstrings being pulled. At the same time, people definitely want to know where their money is going to go. And more specifically, they can actually, I would say, visualize the impact the more specific that it is. So let's just go back to a classroom, for example. If a school is raising money, they can talk about inspiring the next generation of graduates. And that's a really great goal. Or if you want to put it in problems terms, that students need a place to go where they can feel inspired and develop a foundation for the rest of their lives, where they're going to go and generate curiosity that's going to go and let them explore. And you can frame that as a problem. And that's an awesome problem. And I think donors will respond to that problem. At the same time, they can't visualize what the impact looks like. So when you break that down into the more technical terms, as the question called it, so we say, picture a group of 8th, 9th graders choosing to spend their recess around their new smartboard in their classroom because they were so interested in the science lesson that they just needed to see the next step. I'm building this example on the fly, so it's not perfect, but they can picture a group of teenagers huddled around new technology in the classroom and exploring together. So you sort of want to weave in and out, I would say, of the technical details of what a donor's donation is going to fund, which paints that picture for donors in their mind of what impact looks like. And then you can sort of zoom out and say the net impact is that you're going to have a group of inspired graduates that's going to go out into the world and do amazing things because of your gift. So I think it's a little bit of both. I don't think it's an either or.
Cool. Do you have stats on how much they've managed to raise?
Wikipedia is pretty good about putting stats out there. They've addressed the social proof element a lot. And oddly enough, a lot of the backwards social proof that they used was actually quite effective and did well in many A/B tests, but they did it around very different messaging. So when they put out these stats, this is from, I think, 2018 from what I saw, the whole message was around how like someone needs to support this, essentially saying if no one supports it, it's going to go away. And I think that that's what donors do respond to. And you can kind of go the opposite of social proof if you go in that direction, like be the leader who's going to actually support this because so many people don't. But I think throwing that line in there without drawing attention to it, without just kind of just burying it in there, they stopped publishing their stats about that specific line when they changed their messaging in 2018, which makes me quite convinced that their fundraising has gone down since they've changed their messaging. But they do put out stats. I was actually really impressed with how transparent they are about their fundraising. Other things that have changed, I know this wasn't the exact question, but other things that have changed over the years. Jimmy Wales did, in fact, used to be the face of the fundraising campaign. He's no longer the CEO, but they have now gone totally away from that, and they haven't put any face to the campaign. It is now totally generic. They've changed their language a lot. Their old language, I thought, used to hit the mark in a much better way, which I actually didn't know prior to our subscriber pointing me in that direction and going down this rabbit hole. So I was excited to learn about that whole backstory.
Cool. Yeah, those are the questions we have, unless anyone wants to drop one right now.
Amazing.
Want to give them a minute?
Sure. Okay, awesome. I'm glad people don't feel the need to fire their questions at me now, because again, my email address is up there on the screen. Please, this is not a one-time shot. You can email me along the way. So thank you all very much for coming. And again, we'll be sending a recording of this hopefully tomorrow. Have a good day, everyone.
Thanks, Raimy.
Bye-bye.